9.7% should be suspended. That is how many people so far are opting for his suspension. Now, moving on to what they also said. They said to a citizen, a week of the president's unveil of the code of conduct for his appointees. It has 9.6%. That's of no opinion. And our final result should be pardoned. 7.6%. About 10,600 votes were conducted, hoping that Sammy Gyamfi, the Gold Board CEO, will be pardoned. And now some Ghanaians have reacted to the call. Let's take a look at it.
Sammy Gyamfi, any agrada assembly, Katasumu Asubi no so monyanchire. If say politician and a sofo, and as a politician and a comfort, the intina mutiminya in Kanta Sebia, mo ye bibia boom. We don't get it. See, a person who said, and Crawford started so for you long time before agrada. And I say, a person only agrada and your business cry, it should be fair. I say, free, so be a idea like a year opened. No be a junior day, and I say, will be any basso.
Some day for all, you can't cook when you cry. Like 1 year bonnet. The nipple of the channel, the white bonnet. Fisa one year with Miss Cafani say, Sicada, Scagali, would know to. Yet it says a Nibisa. We wouldn't know who would use our show. Then your office can pay KB. They said somebody will be at the Ghana Hanama, and then an agrada. And send for Takra, Codicho be and Kenya Nibiaya. Make a cry, so the man on.
I'm not glad Sammy Gyamfi assembly there. What is Canama, I got an answer, dear, and no one because I got answer where Chrome Henny or Mamba, and Tiscano, I got an Nibia, the anti, also be dear. Problem behind him into a dear what
Toma Bama in this city. Fisi a woman. Fearful in I MPP for what I say. Fearful in I MPP for, but no credit than Obichu Obiska news. Yeah, Nuntina, what you Obiska is come much for. What it is for coming for Yasimua. Yakum be there. And I is canning on 1% money. And I'm going to say, I bensi can ordinance album no de achagrada. And say, no mundino. O man penny Mahama by her baby $1 aba. Her passport. First, go to 2,000 going to me your passport. And her passport, baby, I go do 300 to me your passport. And no man calling him. And no man SCA here. And you will be at Chobiscan MPP4 and say, Muno. Chama won't me because it's a good bar. Eddie Begu TV soon. Any day.
Me a fool and this. Na Sammy Gyamfi waya dia medin ho ya bibiri me we kwa ho ano paper manyanto boasie ahwe video ni ye pa wanya de odo joma ma obo adwuma mom but say omam ya ti ase say dollar na e kosu ni nyina no omo kwaje dollar ne ba na omo dia ba be gudem na te se omo ye dey omo chiche sika na wode chairman minimini hu problem. But senke ye see this ya enkame enhame say ye see this and any enkwade chairman me na enkenhame ye wo ye omampanyini a wo ye minister enti say wo che obi sky Ghana ye this enti yade a amanfo ebenya ensunsu aso papa but say okokoyi dollar bondo na wo ka bi mama me no na ma me say hwe sika no e di free nsam ye de kwa that means dollar no wo bebregu ya kan say edem.
And now the Member of Parliament for the Tema West constituency, James Enu, says he will be surprised if the embattled acting Chief Executive Officer of the Gold Board, Sammy Gyamfi, is punished for an act of benevolence. The private legal practitioner said calls being made, particularly by the minority in Parliament, demanding suspension of the Gold Board CEO is ridiculous, reckless, and a contrived attempt to equalize Cecilia Dapa's case.
I think that is quite unfortunate. I've heard the minority caucus calling for his suspension and order. I think it's quite premature. For me, the most important thing is that he has apologized to the people of Ghana. He has seen that he has gone beyond the borderlines and he has gone ahead to apologize. This is his first time that such a thing has happened to him. I believe that he has learned from his mistakes. For me, the worst case scenario, he should be cautioned or he should be warned never to, or to desist from such conducts.
And now, when I cry High Court has directed the prosecution team for former boss of National Signals Bureau, Kobna Edubuahin, to file or witness statements by May 26, 2025. The trial judge, His Lordship Justice John Eugene Nyadu, who raised concerns about personal liberties of the accused persons, asked the Deputy Attorney General to try as much as possible to expedite the trial. The former Director General of the National Signals Bureau has been charged with stealing. He has been charged along with 3 other persons, including his wife, for stealing contrary to Section 124, Clause 1 of the Criminal Offence Act, Act 1960, Act 29. The Attorney General filed the charges on Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. At a press conference in Accra, March 2025, the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Dominic Ayini, said the former Director General of the National Signals Bureau, Kobna Edubuahin, was arrested in connection with an alleged financial scandal involving $7 million cyber defense system contract. The Attorney General explained that the cyber defense contract was intended to strengthen Ghana's ability to detect, prevent and respond to cyber threats, data breaches, and digital espionage. However, the funds allocated for the project were allegedly mismanaged. And our minority caucus in Parliament has strongly condemned what it calls a violation of the 1992 Constitution following a simultaneously absence of President, Vice President and Speaker of Parliament from the country without swearing in of an acting president. In a press statement issued on Monday, May 12th, 2025, the minority revealed that all 3 top officials were out of the country at the same time. Situation, they argue, contravenes Article 60 of the Constitution. Now we have a legal private practitioner, Gideon Tete, who want to join us via phone to discuss matters on the search. You're alive.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon.
How do you do?
I'm doing very well. Trust you're doing good as well.
I'm hale and hearty.
Wonderful. Kindly help us understand the constitutional breaches being spoken by the minority.
Well, thank you very much. Let me say good afternoon to your viewers and listeners. Well, I do not see any constitutional breach with the actions of the President, the Vice President, and the Speaker of Parliament. Because clearly, looking at the Constitution, it does not really state that if indeed the President is absent or unable to perform his functions, then it means the Vice President cannot act.
Right.
Looking at the same Constitution that the minority is calling that indeed there's a breach, particularly Article 60. When you read Article 68, and in conjunction with Article 60(11), you would come to realize that the Vice President doesn't. The Constitution does not say that if the Vice President is absent. It only talks about the fact that if the Vice President is unable to perform his or her functions.
Right.
And looking at this situation, yes, indeed, the President is absent. Yes, clearly, someone must take place. The best person to take place is the Vice President. The Vice President has not said anywhere that she's unable to perform her functions. Right. Unable to perform her functions means that she's incapacitated. Maybe she's passed on or what have you. But in this case, she has not indicated anywhere that she's unable to perform the functions once the President is absent. And so the Vice President actually fills the vacuum. And so I don't see why the minority will talk about constitutional breach.
Yes,
to me, I dissent in terms of the position of the minority in Parliament.
Well, is there any attempt to denigrate the image or reputation of this government? Is that what the minority is seeking to achieve?
You see, the point is that the minority is an opposition party. They just lost an elections. They are trying to find their feet. And obviously, once you are trying to find your feet, you want to keep yourself busy. And so, to me, that is what I see what the minority is doing. At least they need to keep themselves busy. They need to show that indeed they are a formidable opposition party. But it doesn't mean that whatever they say must be taken hook, line, and sinker. In this particular situation, right, there's nothing like constitutional breach. The vice president can still perform the functions to fill the vacuum of the president.
Well, one would say that since the speaker is nowhere to be found and the president has also taken off to do some other business in favor of the country, the vice president is supposed to be seen, in national discourse, partaking in other angles that we could feel her and also see her. Since she is not in the picture, don't you think that's why they are raising the bar high?
The fact that you don't see the president walking around, does it mean she's not performing her functions? Is that my understanding? Must she necessarily be walking around with pictures and videos all around before we indicate that she's performing her functions? I beg to differ. What matters is that the country is running and running well in the absence of the president. The speaker, even though it says he's nowhere to be found, it is not the speaker is missing. He's not missing. So the vice president, once the country is running the way it must run, and she has filled the vacuum, wherever she is, what matters is that whatever must be done for the progress of this country is going on as expected. Anything short of that, well, I see that it is just a matter to just gain attention, and that should not be encouraged by the minority.
Well, many thanks for your in-depth knowledge on this said matter.
Most grateful.
More for other knowledge. Now, moving on to do some other stories. The New Patriotic Party is calling on the President Mahama to interdict Sammy Gyamfi, CEO of the Ghana Gold Board, of his alleged misconduct. Addressing a press conference, national organizer of the party, Henry Nana Boakye, linked the situation to that of former Sanitation Minister Cecilia Dapaah, who drew widespread condemnation for possessing millions of dollars, whose source could not be explained.
Note that Section 55(2) of Act 1044 stipulates that in a trial for an offense under the Act, an accused person, in this case, Mr. Sammy Gyamfi, may be presumed to have unlawfully acquired a property if the accused person is in possession of a property which the accused person cannot account for and which is disproportionate to a known source of income of the accused person. Note that he has not taken any salary since his appointment. So clearly, the money he doled out obviously is disproportionate to his income. We also call on the President to immediately interdict Mr. Sammy Gyamfi as an acting Chief Executive Officer of Ghana Gold Board, or at least he should interdict him pending the conduct of the investigation by the criminal investigative authorities of the state. We cannot but remember when huge sums of money, and this is the principle here, please let's pay attention. We cannot but remember that when huge sums of money was reported to have been stolen from the residence of Madam Cecilia Dapaah, a woman who had worked in high places for over 40 years before the incident, had been NP since 2001, as well as a deputy minister and also a minister. And she is married to a well-known rich architect and a consultant, well-known, with nearly 60 years experience in the profession. She was made to resign. This principle is cardinal. Under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, a similar issue happened. Madam Cecilia Dapaah was made to resign immediately by the president Investigations were duly conducted by the OSP against Madam Cecilia Dapa and her husband after what the OSP described as 7 months of extensive investigation and 4 months of collaborative investigation. It concluded that their investigation did not establish any evidence of corruption, corruption-related offenses, or procurement breaches against the suspect. We require the same standard to be applied here. Same standard to be applied here. And let me also say that Mr. Sammy Gyamfi again is on record on several TV programs during the Madam Cecilia Dapa saga, and I quote him, "Once money is found in your custody and you cannot account for the money, and that money is disproportionate to your income, you shall be deemed to have committed the offense of money laundering." Madam Cecilia Dapa resigned during the whole brouhaha, as I said, and again we require the same principle to be applied. Again, on the matter of Her Ladyship Chief Justice Tokuno, in an interview with Asempa FM Okusisen, he stated that the Chief Justice should be sacked for using state funds in dollars in her medium of exchange instead of the Ghana cedis, which is exactly the same act he engaged in last Saturday. Per his own assertions, then it means he must be sacked. That is exactly what he said. And these are principles. And this is his own sort. And he must. He must be on his own sort. Even more ironical is the fact that Mr. Sammy Gyamfi presently heads the Gold Board. This is very important matter, and this is issue of governance, which is being touted by this government as being the backbone for the stabilization of the city through the maintenance of sufficient gold reserves. Do not forget that the establishment of the Gold Board, one of the arguments for the establishment of the Gold Board was to centralize all businesses, all dealings regarding gold, to stabilize the city. This argument was made widely. If Mr. Gyamfi, the CEO who is responsible for maintaining sufficient reserves to support, to help, and to prevent the depreciation of the city, to stabilize the city, possesses dollars in his daily routine. And we say daily routine because when you go for a funeral 1 week and you have dollars packed in your car, then the indications are that that is your modus operandi in terms of spending. That is how you spend. That is the money you use. Because if you are just going for 1 week and you have tens of thousands of dollars in your car. Mr. Sammy Gyamfi, again, then clearly he has no confidence in our city. And if you are superintendent over an institution which, as part of its mandate, is to help stabilize the city, that is the only legal tender, and I've already mentioned that. And if you have the head who superintends over this institution doling out dollars instead of the city, then it means that the person or the CEO, acting CEO, lacks confidence in the Ghanaian city. And that is key. And that is the more reason why we are of the view, the New Patriotic Party, and I speak for the party, we are of the view that if he is unable to stand firm, if he is unable to defend the city, if he is unable to protect the city, and he will rather be displaying dollars, then it means he cannot superintend over the same institution seeking to stabilize the city with gold reserves. But let me also state on record that under the gold purchasing program of the New Patriotic Party, our gold reserves as a country, which stood at 8.7 tons, for the last 40 to 50 years, grew to about 30.53 tons as at the fourth quarter of 2024. This program is one of the major reasons why we are seeing the appreciation of the city. Again, yesterday, the minority in parliament also had a press conference where they also mentioned the allowances, the salaries of Mr. Sammy Gyamfi, referencing the minority press conference yesterday. The state cannot be paying Mr. Gyamfi hefty salaries and allowances for him to be undermining.
And now Felix Odate Lamte has been confirmed as the municipal chief executive for Weja-Gbawe. He secured 16 out of total of 19 votes in the second round of confirmation process conducted in a camera after renomination. In hours after his earlier rejection, he was sworn in by the Greater Accra Regional Minister, Linda Oklu.
What I just witnessed in the hall, in the election of the presiding, I'm confident that at the end of the day, our nominee will be confirmed 100%. In confirming them, we shouldn't delay at all. And so that just after the confirmation, we are going to swear the person in so that tomorrow the person can assume work and start whatever development you need.
In my capacity as the presiding officer for this process, I hereby declare Moses Kabu Kubi Okansi duly elected, duly approved as the MCU for the South Municipal Assembly.
The next stop was the Weja-Gbawe constituency. That was where things took a dramatic turn. From the onset, people were rooting out for the president's nominee.
Now warfare like once and for all. Now warfare as many. For example, in the election, or people in your foot to go more voter. No, Bodo Galaya election like our friend is non
But subsequently, it looks like what some were expecting were not what the others or the real voters or deciders wanted. At the end of the first round or at the end of the voting process, the president's nominee was able to poll some 10 no votes and 9 yes votes, which means they have rejected the president's nominee for the Weja-Gbawe municipality.
None can hold that here. What vote to your Weja-Gbawe assembly mao? Take a shower. What vote to Domokaka Weja-Gbawe?
Felix is standing for MP. Now you can have Jerry. So I call an account. MC, I can have Felix no what you know me. Minaka me Yaro Lolo, like a Felix not on any military.
Siba Oleakashi, Anya Halen, assembly be a non vote. Now, assembly be a metao. And one new affair, and young affair, no towel. Other party faithful gave reasons why assembly members rejected the president's MC nominee.
It doesn't mean if you now, na a yaw woman, on bet me a vote to Amaw.
susu se sa nneema ye call so eye abato brand mu no eno na ama eye amradofo a ewo ha no no omo so mo yi omo ani ama Felix.
Yes, because omo friend na oma last meeting ye wo obrogo ansa na ye babe vote no kra ipan for ba because of ni hunti na ye.
And now the railway workers across the country have begun the indefinite sit-down strike of unpaid salaries and deteriorating working conditions. The union claims the state-owned company has faced persistent challenges since the change in government, worsening their financial situation. The strike has resulted in a disruption of passenger traffic between Tema and Accra. The union is calling for immediate payment of all salary arrears and a concrete plan to prevent such delays in the future. And that's it for the news update on Business Edge. We'll take a quick 10. When we come back, Kwesi Efriye will run you through the rest of the show. Do stay.
Sometimes the unexpected happens and the hero falls down in his own story. But he needs not stay down for long. Cosmopolitan Health Insurance is your trusted health partner. Whether an individual building a business, with Cosmopolitan Health Insurance, your medical care is our concern. For the best health insurance solutions for corporate institutions, groups and associations, families and individuals, choose Cosmopolitan Health Insurance from our over 700 accredited health service providers nationwide. Call us on 0302 540 668 or 0501 678 547 for all your health insurance solutions. Cosmopolitan Health Insurance, your medical care is our concern.
Yes, next. Hey, Nadia Benson, some more.
Me didn't tum. Mr. Friend, Calico, just call me cockroach. Now, Mr. Friend, me once now.
Hey, that's on you.
Improve car.
Yeah.
Captain, mosquito, double the action. Me did it, Sasso spray. Mr. Friend, Sasso quell. Yeah, go to my Sasso.
Come tum preko.
Back in the day, your Metro TV, live on television.
And live on television, this is on Metro TV.
People pick the records, and you see every time we wipe the record. There's a reason why we wipe the record, because the records, they gather dust.
These days, people want to be on radio because they think it gets you popular. I mean, back in the day, we could sit there was a place at Choice FM called the Pentagon, and we could have a discussion about songs, and you think it was a political debate.
I remember those days at the Ghana Film Theatre, films were released almost every week. New films, and we saw long queues of people trooping to go to watch films, and then we also had video centers.
But then I think the plus we had was the fact that there were people we looked up to, and we didn't just look up to them. We served them, and they actually taught us.
Yeah. Kofi Dixon and that team, they started playing Hip Life. When they started playing Hip Life wasn't called Hip Life. It didn't have a name.
You are watching Back in the Days with Sammy B on Metro TV.
Back in the Day on Metro TV is live.
Right. Let me welcome you to the show. Or let me begin by saying good afternoon to you. The show is actually on. It's Good Afternoon Ghana, but this segment is a business segment of the show with me, Kwesi Efri, and I'm happy to welcome you this afternoon. We are turning our attentions to the entire space of agriculture in the country. This afternoon, I'm very happy because I'm meeting my very good friend who is an expert, well-versed in the area of agric. It's been a long time we had him on air anyway. But once we have him, we know that we'll do justice to all the issues, all the challenges, all the things that are happening in the space of agric. So I think we haven't had him this year. This year, what has happened is that there is a new government, His Excellency, the President John Dramani Mahama's government, who came into governance on the promise of resetting the entire economy, including the agricultural ecospace, from mechanization or from the raw farming, the production, to mechanization through value addition to the end product. There was the promise of the Nkukwan Kitinkiti, which some people laughed at. The Nkukwan Kitinkiti has been launched, and it comes across as a very serious project that the president has really thought through. We have had the Minister of Agric, Honorable Eric Okpuku, also speak about some things he believes are the solution of the problems we have here in the agricultural sector. I will not play the place of an expert. We have the expert here in the studio, and I'm going to throw all that to him. We are going to do an extensive analysis. We'll look at the budget as well, as presented by the Honorable KCL Ato Forcing, and how much is being dedicated to agric. It's a government, not just this government, but other governments that have come really serious about agriculture at all. The advent of oil, the advent of the extractive industry, mining, bauxite, and so on and so forth, and now lithium. Are we shifting our focus from agric? What exactly is happening in the cocoa industry? So you want to stick and stay with us. We'll put the phone numbers on the line, on air. You can send us WhatsApp messages or text messages. I'm not sure if we'll be able to pick up calls, but Anthony Morrison is the Chief Executive Officer, Chamber of Agribusiness Ghana, and I'm happy to have him. Anthony, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good afternoon.
I hope it's been a long time.
Yes.
I think we haven't met this year.
It's true.
You have been too busy.
In
fact, I've been watching your status on WhatsApp all the time. You're running around the globe, attending conferences and making sure.
The globe on my farm.
But how is it going anyway?
Oh, very well. Very well, yeah.
It's been a while. Your business, the farms and all of that, how is it going so far?
Well, very well. I think despite some few challenges, issues with the fall army worms, which is still across the country, issues with regards to the fruit flies affecting orange and mango farmers. I think that we need to also work on the physical space of financing for the agriculture sector. But above all, I think that we're seeing prices coming down.
Oh, wow.
Which is good. Yes, we
for,
have
for the produce, raw produce.
No, not for the raw produce, but for the input that goes into the production. We have monitored several of the agrochemical dealers and fertilizers.
Yes,
we're seeing some drastic prices that are coming down. I can mention Agromonti. I can mention Matrix. Okay, and quite a number of them.
But what's causing this? What's the causing? Is it the dollar? We have seen a drastic reduction in the dollar rate, I think, over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And the dollar is coming down. The Minister of Finance and, of course, some government communicators believe that government is doing something right. They are actually calling on GUTA, the Ghana Union of Traders Association, to bring prices down, not only for agri, but for essential areas. So, I mean, for you as an expert, what do you think is the reason why the prices are coming down?
Well, there may be global impacts, and there are also other strategies being adopted by this very government to make sure that they're able to stabilize the forex. But for us at the agriculture sector, over the past few years, we haven't been able to even give a quote for more than 24 hours. Now we can do that for 2 weeks. Okay, which...
Oh, no, you want to explain that to me? You have not been able to give a quote, as in price quotation for your product.
Yes.
So, for example, if you produce a bag of maize, maybe 50 kg or 100 kg.
Okay, so let me start from the production sector so you understand.
All right.
I mean, before production, you require inputs. And these inputs, people really require quotation. Now, you give a quotation 24 hours. For the past 5 years, that's what we've been doing. And it makes it very difficult to engage with buyers. Prices keep fluctuating due to the fact that forex issues, okay, keeps going up and down. Now we are seeing some stability. You can relax and give a quotation, knowing that the prices will not jump, but expectations also could be that prices will come down. So we are looking at some of these things that are driving in a lot of people going to agriculture now. What we need to do now is to work more on the financial institutions and the other PFIs to make sure that they are actually giving what they have to give to the agriculture sector.
So what it is that we should be expecting from you, I don't know if you'll be able to say this, that if 50 kg maize or 100 kg maize is going for, let's say, 900 cedis per bag now.
So 100 kg.
100 kg.
Yes.
It's 900 cedis per bag now.
So 50 kg, yes, 400, depending on the location.
Depending on who are buying from and which location you're buying
exactly.
from. The anticipation is that the prices will go down in the coming days.
Certainly, because as far as one of the major components on the grains and cereals is the forex, which is working well, then the inputs and also transportation. So the transportation are into fuel in terms of plowing and harvesting.
Yes.
Fuel in terms of
we usually don't think about that. We are always thinking about transportation.
No,
after the produce, after you have harvested.
Yes.
I mean, transporting from wherever the farms are, maybe to Accra, and if you're exporting. But we never think of the plowing, the harrowing, and all of those, the fuel that goes into the tractor.
In 2016, we were doing an acre of plowing at 60 Ghana cedis. Now we are doing an acre at 320.
Oh,
so that tells you
the fuel.
Yeah, because of the fuel. Okay, the cost of fuel. So what goes in there is cost of fuel, insurance, spare parts, and the operator cost. Okay, so those four factors influence the production: the clearing, the plowing, the harrowing, the planting. Assuming you are using a planter, you need the tractor to drag the planter. If you need to spray, you need a sprayer to spray. So
when you get to the point of harvesting, you
need a harvester.
And you need a harvester, you need to still buy fuel.
You need to pay for the tractor use. You need to pay for the operator use. And then after harvesting, you need to process. Okay, you don't just harvest and put it there. So you need fuel. to process as well, to dehusk, to deshell, and all that. Then also, you need to package. You need lights. You need workers. Then move the goods from the warehouse to the market now.
Well, but the factors of production are things that we don't, I mean, the lay people, we don't regularly think of.
That is what actually contributes towards the food price buildup. Okay? A lot of people don't look at what elements or factors are key influencers in the food price buildup. But for us, at the agribusiness level, we look at every penny that goes into the production and every penny that helps us to secure a market. And you see, most people don't know that after production, you also spend to access market. Market doesn't just come on the table, just like you cook the food. You need to find a way to access market, market that is guaranteed. And in our case, we haven't had a guarantee market for several commodities. So you need to have a way of, you know.
Why is that the case? Is it preservation? Is it storage? Is it the issue of the fact that there is no market? We have AFTA in place, and if the local market is not enough to be able to accommodate or take all your products, you have other countries to go to.
Okay, so according to the 2018 agriculture census, we're looking at agriculture sector whose population are predominantly illiterate, about 80%. Now, and you also have them purely using rudimentary technology. What we are saying here is that the sector is informal, and you need to do something to formalize it. And if you look at trading in the agriculture sector, 99% are informal. You go to the market days, you go to the farm gates and all that. Contracting doesn't work in the sector, and that is what some of us have been asking for. We need to have an agriculture sector contract register, where when I sign a contract with you to supply me a produce, that contract is legally binding. And when you fail to do that, I can sue you in court, and that can also affect your credit rating or access to finance. We need to make sure that we are actually respecting contracts in this country. And that is one thing that hasn't worked well in the agriculture.
And that's what you are pushing for.
Yes.
And let's stay on that a bit, because I was going to ask you how we are able to formalize the entire sector. And you make a very important point. We'll still come back to the issues of policy and so on and so forth. We'll come back to those basics. But I like where you are going. The fact that those that are farming are largely, for want of a better word, illiterates or informal. Let me put it that way. That's a better word for me. So those that are farming, those that may even be transporting, now those that are doing the marketing, Abublosi, Makola, and so on and so forth, KGTR market, are also largely informal. How do we as a country formalize? I mean, you have stated one very important point, which is the contracting. But the training aspect, the orientation, the youth getting into the space, all of these, we have felt governments upon governments, and you have been here. Do they consult you? Do they come to you? Do they ask these questions? How are we able to mechanize, for example, our agriculture, be like Israel, be like Brazil, produce for factories to go on?
I like the way you've broken the system. Let's take it step by step. We have a population of about 7 million people who are directly involved in agriculture in Ghana. However, we have about 13.2 to 14 million, both directly and indirectly involved in agriculture. So it paints the picture of you having some almost 40 to 42% of your population directly and indirectly in agriculture.
Yes.
We're talking about the population, I mean, official data now, I think 36 million people. So if you're having 14 million directly and indirectly involved, you understand what I'm talking about. Now, compared to maybe US, our best trademark, where we have, US have about a population of 300 million people and just about 0.5%, which is about 50,000 or 500,000 involved in agriculture. Now, a country like US can actually make provisions for 500,000 farmers. because they have all the financial powers. You have a population of 40 million. Ask me, how much do you put together as an intervention, whether social, economic, or food security, to be able to support 14 million people as an intervention? And we have consistently been of the view that it is time we look at what we call, I said earlier on, the skills level of the 7 million people.
The players in the sector.
The farmers.
The farmers, direct
producers.
farmers, okay.
7 million. The skills level, out of the 7 million, almost 90% uses rudimentary technology and cannot be able to read and write.
I agree.
Now, what we are saying is that introduce what we call economic skills diversification program.
Okay.
So what you do in that sector, because when people are not able to be productive in a sense that impact strongly on the economy, you analyze them, do a proper mapping, and make sure that you have a diversified skills for them, train them, and get them to be more impactful in other sectors of the economy. So you take them out. So in school, okay, when you are in primary school, and the teacher is teaching you maybe English, mathematics, or science, what they do is that they look at the best performing student and the non-performing student, find a way to segregate them, find time on the non-performing ones, and give them extra education or extra tutorials or teaching.
Fair enough.
And prop them up to be able to perform as best as the performing ones. But what we are saying here is that segregate them. Those who are performing, we will know. Do a proper data build-up of the agriculture sector. Then make sure that you are able to align their interests to the economic interests, especially in the point of the country prioritization, or where we are prioritizing the country growth, economic growth to be.
But one of at the same point, one of the key points for me on what you're saying, and the question will be, out of this 7 million people, as for the 13, there is the indirect involved. But let me stay on the 7. And with the segregation you're talking about, first of all, even before the segregation, how many of these, and what will be the orientation? How will it look like? Because I go into the rural areas, the villages, and I see that most of even these people will be subsistence farmers. They are producing for themselves and their immediate family. So I come from Fadem and Pontin or Abuaso and Kasa, somewhere in the Ashanti region. I go on vacation. I go to my grandmom. We go to the farm. We go and farm. We do cassava. We do maize. We do plantain. And then the very little things that we can have on the farm. We come back. We cook it. We eat it. The following day, we are back to the next farm. How many of these people are farming for commercial purposes? If anything at all, the extra produce that we have in that one basket, we send it to the local market. We go on the market day and sell that bit, the remaining cassava that we have. But there is no conscious effort or plan to do, say, at my stage, say 50 acres. And then look for you, the marketer or the businessman, and say, I have 50 acres of cassava. Would you want to buy? Then I invite you in there. Most of these people that we are talking about, I don't have the data anyway, but would be the subsistence farmers we are talking about.
Okay, so let me point this out. We are in a world of globalization, okay? No country in a globalized world have developed itself economically focusing on subsistence farming.
Exactly.
Let me also differentiate between subsistence farming and smallholder farming.
Okay.
Okay. Subsistence farming are people who actually produce it subsistently to feed the family and also make use of the remnants or the leftover to exchange for goods, other goods, or to sell to be able to reproduce. But for the smallholder farmer, and our definition of smallholder farming, according to MOFA, is between 2 acres to 5. In Brazil, a smallholder farmer is 50 acres plus.
Oh.
Okay. So, you see, when you put yourself in that context of globalization, you realize that you are not being competitive. And in the globalized world, when you are doing 50 acres, you are supported. Now, assuming that 5 million Ghanaians are in the bracket of smallholder farming, how would you be able to support them?
I agree.
So, what we are saying, the issue is not about subsistence farming. Subsistence farming, whichever
will not
way,
get us where we want to
subsistence
get
farming is
People
economical for the family,
yes,
and to keep perpetuating. But the smallholder farming is actually smallholder commercial farming.
Okay.
Because they are doing it commercially, but in a small way. So you have a lot of people doing fruit juice. Some have factories, some have a kitchen, makeshift with the blender and all that. They are in business, just that they are small.
So when you go to Nsawam, for example, you see lots of pineapple farmers.
Yeah.
And you see small, I don't know whether you want to call them factories or how you want, but they're able to produce the juice for you, and you.
Exactly.
It is very good.
So they are actually contributing towards the economy, but they are not doing subsistence. They are doing what we call the micro businesses.
Okay.
Okay. Now, some of the pineapple farms you find in those area, they may actually be holding farms that are supporting them. So they are operating an in-grower system. So they provide them with mechanization services. They provide them with the planting materials. They provide them with support with agrochemicals and the harvest, and also ultimately the market. Now, in globalized farming, first thing that happens is market.
Okay.
You think first of the market before you go to produce. First, you identify.
And that's where your contracting comes in.
Exactly. Because if the market, for instance, is a Kumfi juice, okay, a Kumfi juice will want a certain variety of pineapple.
Okay.
Not all variety is appealed to a Kumfi juice. If it's about mango, a Kumfi juice will prefer a certain variety. If it's Blue Skies, if it's HPW, if it's Bomat, all of them will prefer specific variety. You don't just stand up and go and produce because these 5 companies are there and they'll take it. No, they like to have standards, quality, a certain variety which is appealing to their market as well. You see, they are your market, but they also looking at what their market is also in demand for.
Exactly.
Because of the changing taste and demand of,
Yes. And so, for me, if I'm getting you right, the contracting may be the panacea to our entire problem as a country.
Let me tell you something. The FAO data says that when it comes to agricultural extension service providers or officers, we're looking at 25, 1 to 25, or worst case scenario, 1 to 50. Now, in our case, we are looking at 1 to 500, 1 to 1,005 in terms of the extension farmer ratio. Now, what we need to do is to look at how do we bring in the private sector extension service providers.
Okay.
So we are creating a lot of jobs, but the private sector will also work towards giving capacities to the farmers, increasing their productivity, and making sure that they are also supporting them on the areas of market contracting.
And these include the smallholder farmers.
Exactly.
Mainly, that's what
exactly.
we're talking
because
about.
We have a farmer-based organization. So you can have a farmer-based organization with about 1,000, 5,000 smallholder farmers.
Okay.
And they are all being supported with agro inputs, mechanization, climate information, and also ultimately market. So those are some of the interventions that are ongoing, be it government or be it private sector.
But is the government aware of this, and is the government collaborating with you on these things that you are saying?
Government is very much aware, both previous and current.
I mean, the involvement of private sector players, the managers of the smallholder farmers, who would now provide the incentives for the smallholder farmers to grow. Is the government supporting you enough?
I hold a lot of views on the support for farmers.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to subsidies.
Let's go through them.
Okay. So I'm a private sector person.
Yes.
Subsidies don't grow economy. Okay?
Subsidies don't grow economy?
No. Subsidies don't grow economy. When you are providing all the freebies, you see, we have practiced we have a system that we have practiced over the past 60 years of always giving freebies to our farmers. Hold on. I'm a businessman. I want to engage a group of farmers who sees me as a business person, and I see them as a business person. Now, when I come in and provide them with critical materials that will enhance their productivity, I expect them to pay me back in the same equal agri terms. Now, when you have development partners, government also coming in the same space, and giving freebies. What happens is that when I even come to them with a good proposal, the intervention that I'm bringing is also seen as going to be free. In fact, a lot of our members who have supported a lot of smallholder farmers got their hands bent. So now we do more mapping. Okay, we mapped your farm, your age. We have you digitalized. So whatever you are taking from us, we know where when your harvest is due. We'll be there with you.
So there is a rift between you and government.
There is no rift.
On subsidies, there is a rift.
No,
there is a rift because you, the businessman, I am producing cocoa. I have 10 acres of cocoa. Government is telling me to do pruning and so on and so forth. Government is giving me the support to do pruning. You, a businessman.
You're talking about cocoa.
I'm using that as an example.
No, don't use cocoa as an example because it's a different derivative.
So let's use maize. Let's use maize.
Exactly.
Maize,
rice, vegetables.
So I need to first of all plow the land, do harrowing, and then add fertilizer and so on and so forth. Then I can plant. That's the case. Now government wants to support me with the fertilizer. Maybe give me fuel for the plowing, and then the harrowing, and then the planting.
Why should government support you?
That's a government policy. That's what the MPP and DC, that's what they are doing, and they are fighting on the airwaves. So, right?
Are you not selling? Are you not going to sell your produce? Are you not going to sell your produce?
I'm going to sell my produce.
Do you pay government back in taxes for selling your produce?
Of course, I will pay government back in taxes.
How would you pay?
That one I'm not able to tell now. But
these are some of the fundamentals.
Yes,
and I think that we need to have a national perspective on some of this.
Mm-hmm.
We are not saying that government should not support smallholder farmers.
Mm-hmm.
We are not saying that government should not have interventions. We're talking about food security.
Food security.
So if you look at the interventions that are coming in, government is looking at both intervention in terms of food security and intervention in terms of economic agriculture development, where we're focusing on agro export and also agro processing. Now, what we need to look at is that there are key interventions that government can bring in to unlock the potentials of the sector.
And not subsidies.
And not subsidies. Okay, subsidies can come in different ways. For instance, subsidies on fuel, okay? Subsidies on power use, that's electricity. Subsidies with regards to some tax exemptions. Now, these should be done to unlock the potential of the sector, which we always say that government's key role in the agriculture sector is to support the externalities, to do the heavy lifting, okay? In that, the heavy lifting, for instance, if I'm using this platform as my farm and I have 10,000 acres, the cost of pulling electricity to 10,000 acres and doing road will cost me more. So is government ready to help me extend electricity to that place? Can government also help to pave roads?
I agree, 100%.
Then also, there is one thing that we've been talking about.
The roads,
government,
the utilities,
exactly.
Those ones.
But there is something we've been talking about.
Yes.
Government has been doing so well so far. But there is one thing that we think that if it's done, it will transform the agriculture sector.
Which is?
Which is the 25% corporate tax on the agro processes.
25%
corporate tax
on the agro. So that's the question I was going to come to that.
Which the president has promised to remove. Okay.
Yes.
We are already engaging with them. We are seeing some good green lights. The Minister for Agribusiness is working to have the agribusiness dialogue, just like the National Economic Dialogue, to tease out the key areas towards putting together the agriculture sector policies and the strategy. Once that is done, we will see how that could be worked out. But as I said, once that tax is taken out, what it does reflect is that the money that has been taken out could then be used to purchase more raw materials.
So I was going to put it this way, that instead of subsidies, government should collaborate with you, let me say, the managers of the agri sector, the private sector players, and not just give the farmers subsidies. Because when they support you, for example, when they partner with you, including the provision of the other social amenities like the road, like the water, access to potable water, like the electricity and so on and so forth.
Service systems.
Exactly.
Warehouses.
It would inure to the benefit of the farmers and we, the consumers also. And not just go direct, you've built a good case for us to, I don't want to say fight against subsidies, but it is not productive, if you say?
Well, the kind of economy you need to run to have productive taxes are clearly out there. The ones that do not, there are some incentives that are disincentive to the economy. Okay, so where you see the opportunity to unlock a potential, you can introduce a subsidy. Where you think that, for instance, Ghana is importing a lot of vegetables. In the budget, I think we've seen in I think page 2 something, where government is looking at the support for vegetable production development. Now, that is very important because we spend about $400 million in tomato importation. That is fresh tomatoes. Then we spend about $800 million also in the processed tomatoes. Okay. Then the same applies to onion, which we import almost about $900 million as well. All focusing on vegetables. We import carrots from Morocco. Okay.
$900 million worth of onions.
Yeah, we need to put a stop to that. Okay. So I strongly.
Forgive me. When you are going to Winneba, I think on the road somewhere, we see an onion depot. All of that onion, when you go to Ashalaja, onion, Kumasi, onion, $900 million are coming from outside.
Yeah. So
when that
almost 60% of onion we consume in Ghana are imported.
900 million. Yeah. From where? From Togo?
No, from Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, Nigeria. We bring from Morocco. We bring some from South Africa, China.
Onion?
Yeah, Netherlands. Yeah, some part of Europe. The white ones, for instance, are from Europe and China.
But can you not take over the local producers?
That's what I'm saying, that we support government intervention in this sector to unlock. Assuming government intervention is able to block import of $600 million worth of onion, that goes to, that 600 million will go to other sectors, maybe road, hospital provision, electrification, water project. The same vein, we stop $200 or $300 million worth of fresh tomato importation. Let's support the value addition where we are adding processing. So 800 million into tomato puree, whatever, are also stopped. We are working towards to $1 billion plus dollars retention for the country. So certain intervention and subsidies for particular areas are very critical to unlock that economic potential. And that is where I think that the area of the 24-hour economy...
I was just going to mention that. I mean, go on, but when you finish out, because I haven't read a bit of development economics, believe, and I'm of the firm opinion, that none of these policies, including the 24-hour economy, can be effective without a proper concentration on agric. The produce of it, the mechanization of it, the value addition of it, and then to get into maybe manufacturing. If we are not able to support the agricultural sector, produce very well, $900 million worth of onion, if we are not able to support the sector, we cannot talk about 24-hour economy.
Well, Kwesi, every government have its way of implementing projects. But let me state here that no country can develop its agriculture sector without a proper mapping of the sector. I'll give you one example. When Japan, after the World War, wanted to globalize their production system, they studied 30 years back into what controlled global trade and then develop a 40-year strategy. Now, what we need to do is to take stock of our raw materials that we have and ask ourselves, in the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, which of our raw materials will be competitive on the global market? If the focus is on the global market, so be it. If the focus is on the sub-region, which I preferred, because if you look at the kind of food trade and agriculture trade
we do it in the sub-region.
We do in the sub-region. I think that all the standardization and other certification system, the tariffs that has been put in our ways by our trade partners in Europe and China and America, Africa engagement using the AFCTA platform and the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme. Some of these things are very critical platforms for us to harness what we have to be competitive. We need to develop the agricultural raw material register, okay, or bureau, where we map each product. For instance, I'm coming just this weekend from a program in Remini, where we had a show called the Mark Fruit, okay? Now, that's one of the biggest vegetable and fruit shows. And even though I've known this for a while, having to come into reality that Peru, Costa Rica, and mention them, all of them have the same product that we have. Uganda, Congo, Angola, they have the same product. I can show you pictures. They have cassava, they have mangoes, they have plantain, they have yam. Just that the yam in Costa Rica and Peru are round, whereas our yam are long.
Like tubers.
Yes. So they have coconut. They have things that we think are competitive in. They also have it. Okay? I was surprised that even Costa Rica, where we got our MD2 from, which is a variety of pineapple, which was meant to be exportable, they are no longer doing MD2. They've still gone back to the cayenne and the sugarloaf. Okay? Now, how are we strategizing as a country to be globally competitive? Where are our comparative advantages? And this is the time we need to begin to sit down to do a proper mapping. Where are the global destination or the global market for our product? And each product, we narrow down on the variety that is in demand, because it's not every variety that is in demand. For instance, you take avocado. The avocado heart is the best commodity out there. Okay? If you take mango, whether Kate or Kent, if you take cassava, Thailand makes billions of dollars from cassava. They consume more than 3% of the cassava they produce. We consume more than 40 to 60% of the cassava we produce. What is the challenge? Do we have a commercial variety that is producing ethanol, high-quality cassava starch? What is the global demand? Are we focusing on the pharmaceutical demand? Are we focusing on the upholstery or the light industries in China? So we need